from the Gen Z context as well, right? If in their world, if social media really like a weak tie for them, and it's so, how can we leverage it? So two parts to the question. One is, how do I begin, right? This whole forging of the relationships and the concept of weak ties, especially leading to something stronger, and Gen Z in the social media context.
So, Nikhil, it's easy. I mean, see, when we listen to things like, when we listen to, things like social capital, it seems that, we are actually into something very technical. But social capital is simply about building relationships, the very same relationships that we used to build when we were back in school, the very same relationships, which we usually have in our workplaces. When you go to your office in the morning, there is somebody whom, you would like to have the first cup of coffee with. That is one person whom you're very close to. So that's not that difficult to build those relationships in your workplaces. Yes, when it comes to how should you proceed, or how should you, lead or take the first initiative step in order to make that relationships, at times, when you think about it sitting in your chair, it seems a little, weird, because, how do we take that first step, and what should I say, and what should I do? You're not supposed to do something. If you really feel that, this is something that you have in you and you don't understand how to do it, you need to figure out those people who can make you comfortable. For example, there's this concept called the dormant ties. A dormant tie is somebody who I knew, but due to some reason, they moved on in their life, I moved on in my life, and we're not in contact now. For example, some friend, some old friend of mine from college days, right? Somebody just gave in, I used to feel that if that person would not be in my life any further, I would not be able to take the next breath. And, you are like the bestest friends possible, but then something happens and then you part ways. And see, it's just that you've moved on in life, but that doesn't mean that, it's going to be that difficult going back to them. It's just that we haven't taken the right step. You just need to take your phone up. It's the age of social media. You can always figure out where they are, what they're doing. So you just need to find the right contact. You just need to go back to them, say a hello, and trust me, everything follows on its own. You don't have to do anything. And the idea of going back to these ties is that these are ties who do not want that first step to be taken. Those steps have been taken well in time. They do exist there. The moment you meet an old friend, right, everything comes back in a jiffy. So you don't have to do anything, effectively. Everything is happening on its own. But what happens thereafter is something really beautiful, because when they moved on with their life, they created their own, ties and their own connections and their own circle, which is very different from your circle. So you can exchange those circles, you can exchange those contacts, you can exchange those ideas, opportunities that you have, right? Taking this entire, conversation towards the weak ties that you mentioned. Now, what is a weak tie? A weak tie is somebody who doesn't fall into my immediate circle. So my immediate circle contains, or, comprises of all those, who are very close to me, my close friends, my family members, those colleagues that I mentioned that, who are really close to you, and you share all your personal, information, everything good and bad with them, who foster a sense of belongingness to you. But your weak ties are, those connections which are more casual, or have become distant, or are very infrequent. They could be acquaintances, colleagues from other departments whom you do not really, work with very frequently. They could be friends of friends. They could be your dormant ties, somebody who was a very important part of your life at some point in time is not there anymore because of certain reasons. Now, they may be distantly placed geographically, or due to, some other reason, but they're crucial in providing access to some new information, some new opportunities to you, diverse perspectives, is something that they can bring in once they come to your life. And that is something which you cannot get through your strong ties, because your strong ties are certain people who are giving you that sense of belongingness, but have exhausted in terms of the opportunities that they can provide you with. That is something that has already been taken care of and has been used over time and over years. Now, in the context of Gen Z, particularly if we talk about, we often have a significant, they usually come with a lot of digital footprint on, social media platforms. And most of their connections are usually weak ties, because, while they may have a large number of online connections, these relationships may not always be deep or intimate, right? With whom they are sharing their personal advice or personal information. So sheer volume of weak ties in social media platforms can lead to something really amazing for these people. For instance, a Gen Z, individual may be on a lookout for, say, a new job. So they may have, some follower on social media, or they might be following somebody on social media, but have never met them in person. This weak tie could introduce them to somebody who has a job opportunity. They can introduce them to some new hobby, which they might feel like turning into their career opportunity. They can have a valuable piece of information for them, which they might not get, through their strong ties. But yes, what they need is to leverage these weak ties well. I mean, just sitting out there on social media, following somebody or giving a comment or so, comment or two to somebody is not going to provide them with this help or opportunity. They need to have, as I said, that, they need to have the right behaviors to make sure that they're able to leverage the strengths which lay dormant in these weak ties. So weak ties need to be, woken up.
Yeah.
They need to be shaken. They need to be made use of by you. I mean, just by having those number of, connections is not going to help at all. So definitely there's a potential, but for that potential, what you need is the right behaviors and the right strategy.